Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be going over Gigabyte's Z87X-UD4H. This is Gigabyte's basically new range motherboard with red heatsinks. As you can see, I think this is the first motherboard Gigabyte has with red heatsinks. They have some really nice accents over here. Everything seems polished and brushed. It's actually pretty fancy looking in person. I actually kind of like it a little bit more than the blue. Once you see the UD3H and the UD4H in person, the UD4H really does kind of shine a little bit. Anyways, the UD3H and UD4H don't really differ too much. I believe there are only a few differences between the two boards. One of them is the color of the heatsinks and the number of phases. The number of phases on this board is 16. I've already unscrewed these heatsinks, that's why this one's a little loose. So if I remove this, you can see all 16 phases. You can also see some really good contact between the heatsink thermal interface material, the pads, and the MOSFETs themselves, the power stages, the IR3553. Now, this is the same power stages and same inductors slash chokes that the UD3H uses. This just used doublers from the 8-phase PWM right here in IR3563B to double the phase count to 16, which should provide an overall cooler operating temperature. Alright, so let's begin. This board supports almost everything any enthusiast level Haswell board should. First of all, you got all 4 DIMMs. You have a bunch of OC features in this little range right here. Now these OC features are pretty handy, and they do come in handy a lot. First, you have a power button, you have reset and clear CMOS, you have voltage read points, which right now only really the motherboard manufacturer can provide, which is pretty handy. You have a dual BIOS switch, as well as a single BIOS enable switch. And single BIOS enable will get rid of anything like boot loops, or if you just want to keep the BIOSes separate, totally separate, then you enable that. And then here we have the dual BIOS switch. And we'll go check out the BIOSes later. So first let's start out with some power design, because that's my favorite part. So let's remove the heatsinks. Okay, so we have 16 IR3553. Now these are really nice chips. Each one is capable of 40 amps. You can see these tiny little chips right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are IR3599, and these are doublers or quadruplers. Here it's used as a doubler, and you can see this master PWM control chip right here. This is the IR3563B, like I just said. This sends out 8 signals, 1 to each of these little tiny 8-pin chips. The IR3553, the IR3553, then double the signal, and each one of these IR3553 controls 2 of these power stages. So this one will control these 2, this one will control these 2. Get it? And then the outputs goes out to these nice solid black capacitors, and these are custom made for Gigabyte. They're each 560 UF microfarads. Everything is provided for anything you really want to do. So let's say you have a water cooler on this board, and like one of those all-in-one water coolers, and Gigabyte has provided the correct fan headers for those water coolers so that one of them can run 12 volt and the other one can run at whatever voltage you want for the fans. You need a 12 volt fan header for water cooling because the pump needs to run at full speed most of the time, and that's what the CPU fan and CPU optional fan are for. You also have a fan header up here in case you want a fan for your PSU, or up in the back of the case, like right over here. Okay, and might as well cover these 2 chips right here. Now this is kind of weird. This is an NXP level shifter, and this is an AS Media, I think 1442 level shifter. And those are a little strange to see 2 different brands, but I guess since this is different video output than we've seen the other motherboards, in that you have DVI here as well as HDMI, DisplayPort, and D-sub, which is also known as VGA. We'll cover the back panel a little bit. I guess they use 2 different ones to get a better signal for DVI opposed to HDMI, because usually these level shifters can be used for either or, but I'm guessing one of them does better at DVI and one does better at HDMI, so Gigabyte has provided 2 different types. Anyways, moving back over here to the OC area, we covered the OC features, right? So now let's cover some of this stuff. So this is the IR3570. This is a 3+2 phase digital pulse width modulator, and the other one's also digital. This board is fully digital. This provides 2 PWM signals. This is the IR3598, and this is a doubler slash dual driver. In this case, it's a dual driver mode. This little tiny chip right there. Now that'll take 2 PWM phase and turn them into drivers for these 2 RAM phases. That should be more than enough power. Then we have a port 80H, also known as a postcode display, and the really cool thing about this board, being the first red Gigabyte board, is the power button over here is red, right? But also, so is this internal USB 3.0 on-off charge and the heatsink. So it's all kind of matching a lot better than it does on other Gigabyte boards, at least when color comes to play. You also have a 3-pin fan header right here. Okay, now this is a USB 3.0 on-off charge, and there are actually two little chips. I'm going to remove this heatsink. Two little chips right here, and they're made by Texas Instruments, and they're USB supercharging chips that provide the proper current and voltage for supercharging USB 3.0 devices. Okay, and you need these two chips if you want to like fast charge an iPhone. So Gigabyte provides them and provides a special port. The red inside always means on-off charge. Right here we have an extra PCIe power slot. So if you were to fill up all three of these PCIe lanes with GPUs, I think you can do that with ATI graphics cards. Then you'd want to plug in this extra power so you don't burn the 24-pin connector. Like if you're folding or something, then you definitely want to plug this in so not too much current goes through these pins. Anyways, moving on over here, we have 8 SATA ports, and what's interesting about this is they're all SATA 3, or Generation 3, also known as 6 gigabytes per second. The black ones all get their connectivity provided by the Z87X-UD4H, which has a 4.1 watt TDP. Also supports 6 native ports here. This is provided by a Marvell SE9172, which is located right there. This chip right here. Okay, now this chip has a little PCIe switch right here, which will switch the SATA ports in Gen 3 either to the internal ports or to 2 in the back panel, which I'll show you. So you can use either or, the internal or the external. Alright, moving on real quick. We have our front panel ports, another fan header here. This is an IT8728F, and this provides all the Super I/O, fan control, and all that stuff on this board is solely provided by this chip right here. Here's another USB 3.0 internal header, and there's actually a hub right here for USB 3.0, which is a 1-to-4 hub. So 2 of these USB ports, I believe, are routed to this on-off charge, and then 2 more are routed to these hubs. 1 goes to here, and then 2 of the ports come out of the hub, go down to this lower USB 3.0 internal header, and 2 of them probably go to the first set closest to this chip for USB 3.0 on the back panel. Moving along, we have an IT8892E, I believe, and this provides 1 PCIe lane to PCI. So it changes the PCIe protocol to PCI for this legacy slot right here. I don't know what you'd use that for, maybe an old sound card, maybe sometime a gaming card, maybe even a graphics card. Who knows? So moving on, you see all the internal headers. We have a trusted platform module header in case you want to do some encryption, stuff like that. Another fan header right here. Then we have our audio subsection right here. Here we have an ALC892 with a DRV632 line driver / amplifier. And this should give us really good audio signal out of the motherboard. Now this amplifier only provides amplified output to the internal audio header for the front panel audio. All these black capacitors are used to filter the outputs of the analog signals for the ALC892, which is pretty good in itself. Here we have an Intel i217V, the newest Clarksville NIC, and that's integrated. This is the physical layer device for the integrated Mac inside the PCH. Here we have our second USB 3.0 hub. This provides the remainder of our USB 3.0. Sorry about that. And I'll show you those in a second. So in total, we have 6 USB 3.0 going through hubs to the back panel. Alright, now let me go over the last kind of chips I didn't cover yet. And it's the BIOS chips as well as these switches right here. Now this switch controls switching between these PCIe 1X lanes. There's 3 of them, but only, I believe, 2 lanes are maybe shared between these 2, and then this one gets its own. But yeah, so you can use either or between these 2. And then these 4 will switch PCIe. Let me zoom out so you can see. Okay, so these 4 switch 8 lanes from this segment to this. So you can do 2-way SLI or crossfire at 8x, 8x, or just 1 at 16x. This last 4x slot comes from the PCH and is PCIe 2.0. Alright, so moving along, let me just take a look at the back panel real quick so I can go over that. Okay, the back panel. Let's do a nice zoom. Okay, so this is a PS/2 port right here, and that's for your keyboard or mouse. That's why it's colored purple or green. 2 USB 3.0 here, 2 here, 2 here, total 6. These 2 eSATA in the back are from that Marvell SE9172, and this is DisplayPort, HDMI, D-sub/VGA or DVI. And this is S/PDIF optical, or no, this is digital. Sorry, I always mix those 2 up. And 7.1 audio outputs. And then right here we have our integrated Intel NIC output, which is pretty great. So all in all, this board is a really good value for enthusiasts. If you want a really nice VRM and you want some good features and all that stuff, then this is a great board to look at. The heat sinks also make it look really nice, and I think they're coming through pretty good with color on the video. So I'm going to put them back on there so you can take a look. One more time at how this board looks with the heat sinks. Yeah, it's actually pretty stylish, and I do like the red accents. I think Gigabyte did a really nice job with them this time. Alright, so if you have any questions or comments, please do feel free to post them in the comment section. Alright, thank you.